Welcome to Containerized Conversations, where we try to containerize our conversation. I'm Jessica Caffarelli.
And I'm Josh Warhurst. Thanks for tuning in as we dive into some of our favorite topics, one containerized thought at a time.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you. It's been 2 weeks. No, it's been a week.
It's been a week. A week and a day.
Been a week. Yeah. It's time flies. Sometimes
time flies.
When you're working really hard, it seems like so much happens in a week, and sometimes it feels like, oh, nothing happened that past week. But I do think that this week for me has been like a busy week.
Honestly, same for me. So something that's in the air. I don't know.
It's April, I guess now, officially, right?
Is this when people start working hard, I guess?
The warm air, right? That people are thawing out of their winter freeze, right? The getting out
Become
of the
more
hibernation.
social.
Yeah. And I don't know. I want to say that, like, this amount, like when you increase the amount of work, you also increase the amount of stress. But I don't know if that's true either. I think you can potentially do a lot of work and have little stress. But yeah, let's talk about that. Because I feel like ops and DevOps and this whole world, right, that we find ourselves working in can be quite stressful. And it's kind of silly that it's stressful because it's not like you're a doctor.
Yeah.
Right? People's lives aren't on the line. Their time is on the line. Their products and their livelihood is on the line. So maybe their lives are on the line.
Yeah.
How do you think about it?
Actually, a sidebar here for a second.
Sure, we can.
I forgot to tell you the news.
Oh,
I've been promoted
officially.
I'm no longer a DevOps engineer. I'm nowhere in operations anymore. I am a lead full stack AI engineer.
You made we just talked about it enough on this podcast, and it just made it into a reality.
It just manifests. Yeah. So now I can actually talk to you about the stress from a different world, which is the development side, because I have fresh firsthand knowledge to it. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, especially, and that's the thing is, like, I think in the dev world versus like the DevOps world, it's like completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think your current job is like probably more engineering focused too.
Yeah.
Like, you guys do sprints, right?
We do releases. So we do a release every week internally. And you could think of that as a sprint.
And then maps to features, and those features need to be out within a certain time.
Yeah. I would say that my job is now at this current company probably 90% dev, 10% ops.
Okay. So I feel like a traditional DevOps role that I've been in and we've been in before has been very like Kanban style. You know, they're deadlines, but they're deadlines that are like, this needed to be done last week and we forgot to tell you, so just go do it. Right?
Right.
Like, that's the stress you're dealing with. And now, as more development focus, it's like, hey, we built out this 3-month roadmap and you're not burning it down properly. So you need to go faster this week to make sure you match that 3-month roadmap. You know? It's such a different, I feel like it's a different level of stress.
It's interesting that you say that, because if you asked me like 5 years ago, what's more stressful, like dev or ops, I would have definitely said ops, because I'd say like, oh, well, like dev, nobody's barking at you at midnight to get something done. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas ops, people are on call. Right.
Yeah.
They will complain that the whole thing is broken at 3 a.m. The thing is, if you press the right buttons, you follow the run book, you figure out the issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see the issue and you're not even stressed. You're just like, I guess I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm bothered that I'm waking up at 3 a.m., but it's not stressful because you kind of know exactly what to do, and it's whatever. Dev, And dev by comparison is like, oh well, you can do this. You can take as long as you need because who
Yeah.
really cares other than the stakeholders, right? And the
Yeah. Yeah.
shareholders. And but if I'm doing as much as I can, then
Mm.
uh, that's the fault of the planners. That's not my
Yeah.
fault, right? I'm an individual.
Mm.
Um, but I think that's also somewhat of a reflection of where I felt I was probably 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Which is that as an individual contributor, there's a level
Yeah.
of like, well, I'm
I,
just a
yeah.
part
I
of a
can
machine.
blame other people. Going back to the 7 habits here.
Yeah. No, no, but like I don't have to. I understand I'm a cog in a machine,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm not the one that set this deadline,
Yeah.
and I'm working as hard as I can.
Yeah.
So why stress?
Yeah.
Um,
But
but I think it's
now,
changed a
yeah.
bit.
Uh-huh.
And I think part of that is the higher you move up in your career, even if you're still an individual contributor, the
Yeah.
moment that you start making choices that affect other people,
Yeah.
right? The moment you start actually changing the direction of things
Yeah.
and you realize that you're not just a cog, you're the one spinning the
Yeah.
handle, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Cranking the gears.
Yeah.
I think that's when you start second guessing and you're saying, is this the right way to spend the time? Is
Mm.
this actually a good thing? Ooh, we
Yeah.
need this now because it's going to save us, 60 hours later, right? We
Yeah.
need this right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then that sort of like immediacy and the need to do something, uh, is what for me causes some level of stress.
That's interesting. I actually like, so like, I don't know. Well, n- not that I'm saying this, but other people have that I've always been recognized as like a natural born leader.
Mhm.
But I feel like ever since I started my working career, I've always been under stress. And, you know, I literally, since I gotten out of college, I've always found myself in a position where if somebody's coming to me for a problem, it means that no one else was able to figure it out. Right. And so
Uh-huh.
even as an IC, like you mentioned, oh, well, I just follow this run book and it's fixed and then I go back to bed. But like, what about those problems that you couldn't do that, where there was no run book, where no one knew how to fix this? Production's down, customers are screaming, companies losing, $1 million every hour. Um, I'm the person that usually gets called when that happens. And so that was the stress I was dealing with was
Mm.
if I didn't do something about this, every hour there was a certain amount of money being lost. And at some point, if it reaches over my salary, I will probably be let go. Right.
Your
So,
salary is more than $1 million an hour. That's incredible.
no,
I know what you're saying.
you can stop being, I had 1 minute to figure it out. I don't know, less than a minute, 30 seconds. No, but like, and so that's the thing is like, so that was the stress I was dealing with. And that did eventually go into like, if the team couldn't figure it out, I felt responsible because again, if someone else was on call and they couldn't figure it out, I was the next point of escalation. Right. And then after me was my manager, and my manager wasn't technical. And sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't.
Yeah.
And so like that was the thing was I was always like the last line of defense. So like that was like the type of stress I was dealing with. And so it's interesting you say that like, at the beginning you didn't feel that stress and now you do, where I almost feel like it's the opposite for me now because I'm so far down in like the leadership track that the stuff I'm setting up, like I'm not seeing the effects for like 6 months. It's almost frustrating how slow it's going at this point.
Mm. Hmm.
Like, and like,
And that's
so
natural because like when you start doing planning, right?
yeah,
Literally your
yeah,
plans aren't like, oh, I'm going to do this for this week or this for this day. It's
yeah,
what do we need to do to get us to where we want to be in 6 months, right? And so
yeah,
you just
yeah.
can't know the end of that
And the other
quickly.
problem is when I was back at that original stress, it was easy to pivot because that stress level was like, oh well, we wasted a few hours, but we'll figure it out. And now it's even more stressful because when you get to the end of that, and then you start finding out the plans failed, you've just wasted like 3 months of work getting it there, right? So you have to like come up with escape hatches or pivots that you might not even be able to imagine right now.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
it's interesting.
the question is, and this is a more fundamental question, right?
Yeah,
Is what causes stress, right?
what causes
Wh-
stress? Yeah,
why are we getting stressed when we're doing things at work, right?
yeah,
I'm gonna bring you through one of our typical release cycles, right?
mm,
So
hmm,
we release on Tuesday
mm,
and we have a code freeze on Friday, right? Every
mm,
single week,
yeah,
right? So the typical week is let's start Monday because that's how I think of it, right?
hmm, yeah, yeah,
Code's frozen.
yeah,
You might start working on the next week, but your job is kind of to support SQA and making
mm,
sure that everything's fully tested going into the next release.
yeah,
And so Monday ends up being a very non-stressful day.
yeah,
Occasionally something comes in, but then it's like a decision. Do we roll this back? Do we whatever? But
yeah,
for the most part, Monday is like really nice and calm. Tuesday is the release day, and usually it's kind of a continuation of Monday, but then you end after the release because the release is like 2 p.m.
yeah,
Then you might start getting into the work, but you're like, I have a whole week ahead of me.
yeah,
Wednesday is when you really dig into the next release and you start
yeah,
development. And Wednesday is when it starts being like a little bit stressful, but not that
yeah,
bad.
yeah,
And then Thursday and Friday, depending on how much you get done and how much your stuff has been sitting around waiting for PRs and
yeah,
whatnot, um, and thinking like, how much time do I have left to accomplish the things that I said I would get done, the things that I promised on Monday I would get done for this next release?
yeah,
Thursday and Friday can become very stressful. Now,
yeah,
if you get really ahead of it and you don't keep adding more stuff to your plate,
yeah,
sometimes Thursday and Friday can end up being not stressful because you said,
mm,
you know, what? I completed what I got. I added one extra ticket. I I got that, and now I'm just here to like support other people.
yeah,
And that ends up being a very stress-free week. Other
yeah,
times you're going up to the deadline, up to that code freeze thing at the end of Friday, where you're saying,
yeah,
can I squeeze this in? Can I squeeze this in? Hey, Jimmy, can you go look at the pull request? Hey, Carl, these aren't real people. I
yeah,
swear.
yeah.
Can you go look at this thing? I need it in and like the time's ticking and you see the
Shout out
thing
to
going down.
Carl.
Your blood pressure's going up. Like I can't see the blood pressure, but I can feel it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I feel like, and then there's like a resetting point where at the end of the day, if you
yeah,
didn't get it done on Friday, sometimes you work through the weekend, but usually you just say, okay, that's next release.
yeah,
Um, and things calm down again. So it's
yeah,
kind of like a slow ramp up and then a sharp spike down.
yeah,
And that tends to be my week.
yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. So what? I mean, you didn't necessarily answer the question though. Like, what is causing the stress? Is it just because you feel like this needs to get in this release and it's not done yet, and you only have a day now to do it? Is that where it's coming from?
Yeah, I think it's the sort of the crunch of like the crunch of stuff that's in your head
Yeah,
that needs to get resolved in a short time
yeah,
frame, right? Like how
yeah,
much time it takes to get resolved. If
yeah,
you say, I can get this resolved in 5 days. If you get
yeah,
a resolve today, great, right?
yeah,
If you get a resolve in 5 days, great. But like, I
yeah,
think the amount of information that you have to keep in your head
yeah,
and then also um, kind of act on,
yeah,
I think that is something that causes me some level of stress,
interesting.
right?
Yeah,
How much
yeah.
stuff is moving and how much time do I have to actually complete it?
But like, I
Um,
feel like I feel well. I guess
you're
the
right. I
how
am
much
dodging
time
something because
you're. Yeah,
I my high school yearbook quote
yeah,
was I don't know if it was my high school. It was
Man,
one of
what
one
a
of those
callback.
quotes. I know. Somebody's gonna look through their high school yearbook and like, you didn't say that. Um, but it was one of those quotes I really liked at that period in my life, which was a quote saying, uh, the sign of a impending nervous breakdown is the belief that one's work is terribly important, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I sort of took it as being that, you know, you shouldn't really worry about how important the stuff that you're doing is
yeah,
because
yeah,
why would you want to have a breakdown, right?
yeah.
Um,
Well, I think what's interesting to me, and like I'm not saying that I don't do this, like I think we all do this, but why is it you care so much that that work gets done that sprint, right? Something's fabricated that made it so that you think if you don't get this done in that release or that sprint, something bad's going to happen, or so you feel guilty and you feel upset, right? And you don't want it, so the stress is there that you want to feel good about this, not bad, right? Like where you're right, there's something there.
no, you're absolutely right. I would say that for me, if I'm analyzing it, and I'm analyzing it right as we're talking, right? We don't have a
Yeah, yeah,
script. I'm not
yeah.
like, oh,
We
lead me
never script
into
things out.
how I figure out this thing.
Yeah,
Exactly. But when you talk about like why is it important to actually get it done? I think there's two
yeah,
answers. There's the sort of social answer, right?
mm,
Which is maybe the most important part, right? Which is I said I would get it done.
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be a liar,
Now,
right?
oh yeah, now people are gonna be like talk behind your back, like, oh, this is a guy that said he was gonna get it done in 2 weeks, and now it's like 8 weeks later. What is he
And
doing with his life?
here's the thing, right? Like I know that even though I try to make good judgments that sometimes like I don't guess
Yeah,
correctly, right? I
yeah.
educated guess, but I don't do it correctly. I could probably miss my deadlines for
Do you?
like ever and people would still think that I'm doing a good job because I do so many other things that aren't even related to deadlines, right?
Yeah. Well,
So it's
here's
kind of
another
silly
quick
that I focus on this.
and another it's another quick sidebar here. You're suggesting that you care about what people think about your opinion. But if I rewind the tapes here back to the Seven Habits, and we go back to the funeral episode, you were
I know.
very adamant that you didn't care about what anybody thinks. As long as they thought like as long as they said I had fun with Josh, right? I forgot what you said. We don't have an editor, so we can't rewind the tapes here. But this is where if we were paying for an editor, there would be a quick clip that of you saying, "I don't care about what people
I
think
know.
about me."
I it wasn't that I don't care. It's that I think that
Yeah,
something like if shoot.
I forgot what you said, but it was something along the lines. But no matter the fact here, what's interesting to me is that like because this is a tool that managers use, this is a tool that project managers, program managers, like C suites, like this is the tool, one of the most effective tools to get people to work. And I don't know if you remember this, but years ago when we first met, we had this very similar conversation, because when I met you, like I cared about making things right in the organization. And I just started, and you're like, why do you care so much? Like, what are you doing, Jesse? Do you remember that conversation? And you remember what I
Yeah,
told you?
I definitely believe that it happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
like, my response to you was that I want to be part of a great company. I
Yeah.
want to be the next Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and I want to be in part of a company that is the next step. Right? That's my goal. That's my drive. That's my thing. And so the reason why I'm stressing about this is every time I don't meet those internal goals, that's what's stressing me out.
Hmm.
Every time a customer gets mad, every time we're losing money, that's what's driving me. That's what's creating my stress. The stress is coming from the fact that I am directly affecting the capabilities of this company not becoming Apple. And everybody else around me is doing the same thing. And it's because it's on me to get them to be turned into great people to join me on my exodus to greatness, you know?
Exodus.
And
Yeah,
right.
I know what you're saying, which is
That
that
would, and I want you to understand this is after years of internal thinking because you asked me that question. So it's because of you. But now I know, right? And so I can comfortably answer your question of what causes stress in me, and it's that. So my
mm,
question to you is the same thing. There's something that's triggering this stress. You're correct. What is it?
yeah.
What is your goal?
It's
What are you
also
trying to
I will say
accomplish?
it's not just and there is a reason I did say there was two things, right? That
You
I
did.
can
You did.
immediately point to, right? The
Yes.
first is that sort of like internal promise, right? I don't want to be it's not like just I don't want to be a liar, but like I
Yeah.
want to be um
Trustworthy.
yeah,
Uh,
there's a word I want to use and
dependable.
it's in
Uh,
Japanese. Yeah, dependable is basically the
like
more
accountable.
yeah,
Like
I want people to think, especially at work, that
yeah,
if they give me a task, I can do it,
yeah.
right?
You're the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so they can also, if they're having their own stresses, they can
yeah,
reasonably put their stress onto me and
yeah.
feel like they don't need to worry about it anymore, right?
Yeah,
So that is part one. But there is a part two to the
yeah.
stress, which is definitely lower, but I think it sits in the background, which
Mm,
is kind of like what you were saying, which is that ultimately I want, and I don't know how I felt about this, say 5 years ago when we
yeah,
first met, or but
yeah,
I want the company that I'm working at right now to be successful,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
want us to achieve the things that we all want. You know,
yeah.
I do feel like when we're a small company, the whole team is kind of gathered around the same vision.
Yes, yes.
And I'm not I'm not relying on that vision to succeed for like my livelihood, right?
Yeah,
If the company fails, like I'm I'll have a house, right? I'll
yeah,
have food on the table, right?
yeah,
I can find another job, right?
yeah,
It's not existential that the company succeeds, but it is basically part of why I push sometimes, right?
yeah.
Because I'm like, if I can get this done faster without causing me to burn out, which is an important thing, if
Yes,
I can get this done faster without causing me to burn out, then the company is closer to success. That's
yeah,
how I'm thinking about my work. I believe
yeah,
everything that I'm doing is important in some way.
yeah,
And so the more that I do, the more we get closer to that
yeah.
goal. Now,
Well, yeah, and then like the atmosphere of accomplishment, I think, is also addicting, right? You've accomplished like you and your team, like if you release a feature on time or early, like that feeling, especially if there's minimal bugs, I mean, it's enthralling. And then especially at a startup, right? More doubly so because it's high impact. It's not like a cog in a bigger company that you're in a small team, right?
everybody's doing something that's important. There's not
Yeah,
like a job that's not that important.
yeah, that atmosphere is addicting. It really is. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the reason you are at least a little bit like that because I fabricated that. Well, and I wanted to. I wanted us in the platform engineering team to feel that. And I feel like when we started accomplishing that like Kubernetes product, and we
Mm,
were starting to like really master it,
it felt
I
good.
think that it felt so good,
Yeah.
right? It felt
Well,
really good.
so that actually brings me to a thing I said literally like a day or two ago to my wife, right? Which was like I was it may have been today, right? I was tired and I was like, okay, I have like 5 minutes. I'm gonna go uh and I'm gonna take a break from work and I'm gonna go play this very stressful video game. Right?
Yeah,
This game where I basically die all the time.
yeah, yeah.
And
Oh, Dark Souls, or is
it's
that the Pinocchio one? Is that
yeah,
the one you're
yes,
playing? Yeah, yeah, the
exactly.
Pinocchio one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Liza P, right? And
God, I hate that
I
game
die
so
all the
much.
time. I
Yeah,
die all the time, and I sometimes make very little progress.
yeah,
Um, And I kind of sit with it, right? And those games are stressful. And you might say, why are you doing that? And I think it's the
Yeah.
exact same as work, right?
Yeah.
Which is that
Yeah.
when you push through to the other side and
Yeah.
you overcome that thing and you get it
Yeah.
done, it
Yeah.
feels very good, right?
Josh,
And
are you
I'm
telling me you take a break from your stressful job where you do things that you barely making it, but sometimes you do and you like it, getting burned out from that, so you decide to take a break from it to play a video game where you're always failing, but sometimes you make it and it feels really good, but it's really stressful and it burns you out?
listen, I think the burns out is the wrong part. I'm not burned out. I really like it.
I
But
need a translation here. I don't.
yeah, my wife's like you're swearing in the other room. Like you're I
Like I
don't
would
throw kids.
expect people playing that game who don't have stressful lives, right? And they need stress to repair their unstressful life. But you, like you should be playing like what is it, Animal Crossing or like
No,
what, you should be playing a cozy game where you do nothing and it's just peaceful music and you sit on a riverside and fish.
I do those things too. I do those things too, but I definitely don't like it as much as the stressful ones. And I think it's the same thing as the work thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's say you go to work every day and you accomplish nothing,
Yeah.
right? And there's no stress because it doesn't really matter what you do. You get paid to
Yeah.
show up and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think that for some people that's a fundamentally unsatisfying existence, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the reason that they seek those things that are important to them, right? That cause a lot of stress is because the payoff feels really good, right?
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
doing these things that put themselves into a pressure cooker and then they come out and they're like, that is a really good steak, right?
That's
Um,
it.
you know, like, yes, it took a little bit more uh time, it took more out of you, but
Yeah.
then at the end you felt like that was good.
Yeah.
That was nice, you know.
Well, Josh, we're at 27 minutes of our recording here.
We always get so
Uh,
yeah, sorry for talking so much.
it was a good talk. It was a good talk. Maybe next time, we'll help our audience members work through this stress, not just recognize why they're stressed. Maybe that can be a follow-up episode. And maybe
It's
it
a good
won't
idea.
be playing stressful video games. I don't know.
That's my strategy. That's my strategy. I'm
All right.
copywriting it.
Well, you have a good night.
Have a good one, Jesse.
And that was our containerized conversation. I'm Jesse Caffarelli.
I'm Josh Warhurst. Have a great night.